Zoroastrianism is a universalizing monotheistic religion, and is thought to be the oldest of that kind, even inspiring large modern ones. Zoroastrianism is the religion of only about 200,000 people in India, Iran, and some other surrounding countries, but mainly India. It is, in fact, this geographical distinction that separates the two branches of Zoroastrianism. The Parsis being those who live in India, and the Gabars being those that live in Iran. These two peoples have different histories, but share most of Zoroastrianism's beliefs. Zoroastrians believe in the teachings of the prophet Zoroasther, or Zoroaster in Greek, or namely the Avesta, which is the Zoroastrian sacred text containing the Gathas, which are a series of hymns written by Zoroaster conveying his teachings. Zoroaster taught of a single god at a time when multiple gods were worshipped. This supreme power is referred to as Ahura Mazda. Zoroastrians also believe that this god controls the Asha in the universe, which is thought of as a vague force of goodness, righteousness, and illumination. This force, and Ahura Mazda who controls it, are thought to combat the evil and obscuring force Drudge, and the evil spirit Angira Mainyu, who controls it. Asha is often represented or seen as being fire or light, while Drudge is represented by darkness. This aspect of Zoroastrianism is why it is interpreted to be a dualistic religion, or one that leans on the notions of opposites in the world. It is also believed in Zoroastrianism that after death, it is decided whether or not you should go to heaven or hell, which also exists in the religion, by weighing your good and bad deeds. Zoroastrians are not required to congregate anywhere to practice their religion, aside from their own home, but there are fire temples used widely for public worship. Fire temples were introduced to the faith long after its creation, however, demonstrating the lack of emphasis on public duties. A fire temple is known to contain an altar within it that is meant to burn eternally, representing Asha. Zoroastrians do not traditionally deal with their deceased in a manner that many other religions do. Zoroastrians believe that a dead body has been possessed, for lack of a better word, by evilness, and that continued contact with humans, their dwellings, or other holy phenomena such as fire must be avoided. Because of this, a dead body is not cremated or buried, but is rather left in an open outside area where it can be eaten by scavenging creatures. Zoroastrianism has two large holidays recognized by the Avesta. These are Nowruz and Yalda. Nowruz is a New Year's celebration on March 21st, also celebrated in the Baha'i faith. Yalda, on the other hand, is a celebration of the winter solstice on this coming Monday, and the transition from longer nights associated with evil to longer days associated with good. Zoroastrianism's holiest city is Yazd in Iran, which is the religion's cultural hearth. Many Zoroastrianisms make pilgrimages to this mountainous site and its famous fire temples. Zoroastrianism has an autonomous nature with local hierarchies. There are modern priests in Zoroastrianism of three main ranks. First, there are the Urvad in India, also known as the Hurbad in Iran, which are the lowest ranking priests and may only perform rituals in the outer courtyard of a fire temple or assist with rituals of higher priests. Next, there are the Mobed, who can perform the greater rituals done within the fire temple. Lastly, there are the Dostar. These priests are similar with all of the religion's texts and not only can perform any ritual, but are also the administrators and religious leaders of the religion, managing the law and code for fire temples. Aside from these priests and those in the past, the prophet of the religion, Zoroasther, and Ahura Mazda are regarded as the most significant figures in Zoroastrianism. Zoroastrianism was, after all, founded by Zoroasther around 3,500 years ago somewhere in the mountainous regions of what is now northern Iran. how one person on some mountain range in Iran managed to found a religion, with most of its followers today in India, however, and the events in between are truly fascinating but somewhat mysterious. It is not known how exactly Zarathustra's teachings were spread initially, but 3 separate Middle Eastern empires either had it as an official or predominant religion. The first clear account of Zoroastrianism in that region's politics was when Darius I made recorded declarations of his rule as decided by Ahura Mazda. Darius I was the emperor of the Achaemenid Empire, also known as the Persian Empire, the first empire known to have adopted the religion. As the Achaemenid Empire reached its height, so did Zoroastrianism. Through conquest and the relocation of citizens, Zoroastrianism was diffused through the Achaemenid Empire, eventually reaching to modern-day Egypt, Pakistan, and Greece. The Macedonians after this, led by Alexander the Great, pushed back the Persians from their lands, and Zoroastrianism too began to lose favor. Eventually, the Achaemenid Empire fell, and the Parthian Empire in that region arose, and is known to have had a Zoroastrian predominance around the year 1 CE. After the Parthian Empire, which did not really diffuse the religion much elsewhere, the Sassanid Empire that followed adopted Zoroastrianism as their official religion. This empire was able to, through conquest and the relocation diffusion that resulted, spread Zoroastrianism slightly further past its confines, but this ended with the Muslim Arab invasion of the empire in 633 CE, which spread Islam both through contagious and relocation diffusion. The Sassanid Empire fell back just as Zoroastrianism's influence did, and the religion soon came to be limited only to clustered fragments after many were persecuted or converted to Islam. Many Zoroastrians left the modern-day Iran region to India, where they became established as the Parsis known today. As the years have approached to this modern day, the concentration has even further retreated from Iran into India, and they are now in the puzzling situation that they are in today with only about 200,000 followers at most. This number is declining as well, mainly due to the religion's practices themselves. Zoroastrianism is one of the few surviving religions on Earth that appears suicidal for 2 main reasons. For one, Zoroastrians almost never accept converts aside from their own children, who become Zoroastrians during the Navhote ritual, the most significant and consistent rite of passage in the religion. This would not necessarily lead to the religion's extinction, however, but Zoroastrians are also meant only to wed other Zoroastrians. The inability for interfaith marriage and the scarcity of Zoroastrians often leads to Zoroastrians leaving their religion for a spouse and dropping its number of adherents further. Zoroastrianism may be one of the first monotheistic religions thought to have inspired the famous ones today, but it seems unlikely now that it will exist with a single follower within the next millennium, if not century.